Fake it till you make it. It's a term we often hear thrown around in regards to content creation.
Yeah, she's kind of an up-and-coming YouTuber.
Kinetic Cal?
Kinetic Cal. Why, you know her?
It goes without saying that you have to inflate your own ego a little bit when you start contributing to the online space. I mean, YouTube is funny because me and millions of other nobodies decided, yeah, I'm just gonna spew my stream of consciousness, share my thoughts without establishing any kind of prior credibility. Maybe people will listen. What happens if people do start to listen? Well, for some people, if their little endeavor here on the platform happens to be successful, they move with gratitude and a plan for the future. Alternatively, however, in some rare cases, YouTube success amplifies the mutation of a gene that would have lied dormant in most of these individuals up until now. You guys remember the weird covers of those Animorphs books? In these rare cases, a metamorphosis begins to occur in which these individuals can't distinguish reality from the hypertension-inducing bubble that is the YouTube drama commentary sphere. Thus, on the seventh day, God created LOLCows, and their presence shifted internet culture forever. You know those people that just can't stop making decisions that ensure the worst possible outcomes for themselves, whether that's on a personal level, a financial level, or a reputational level? See, self-reflection and ability to learn from your errors. These are characteristics that the LOLCow is inherently devoid of. The name is pretty self-explanatory. Someone enters LOLCow status when they become a consistent producer of LOLs or general amusement. Often these individuals are extremely easily baited into outrage, almost begging to be milked, thus exhibiting their inability to gain insight from their missteps. What better case studies than the specimen, the hosts of a Keemstar cultivated podcast, but fittingly titled LOLCow Live, on which the viewer can bear witness to the bizarre, often surprisingly conceited perspectives and dynamics of people with absolutely no self-awareness, who often find themselves at the center of online scrutiny. And I have the privilege of gaining insight from a first-hand source, so warmest welcomes to my very special guest, TommyC. Do you want to just start by introducing yourself and your channel?
I'm TommyC. I run a YouTube channel called TommyC's SFTP, which is essentially a podcast. I ripped my entire style, really, because I just wanted a stupid show like Howard Stern. But you know, I really couldn't get any traction with hockey. That was kind of my, you know, sports and dude bro. You know,
yeah.
The Army. At the time, and I kind of wanted to kind of recapture that sort of locker room feel.
The sports pod.
It wasn't a word for it at the time. They were becoming woke. That's not the way guys talk offline. Guys do talk like that. They're virtue signaling, and you know, I wanted to do something different. I think that's what I provide now. Sort of a secret picture that I would tell everyone. Like, I really dug YouTube drama. Like a girl. I did really like Drama Alert. I loved when YouTubers fought. It seemed a little more pure back then, a little more fair, a little less vicious. One of the things I still told that on Dave, he asked me where the line was, and I was like, I'm not going to tell you.
We'll cross it when we get there.
Yeah, I don't. Well, I can't tell it would have a line because then you're kind of giving the keys away. But I do have a line, and I think now people know what it is. So it's easier to get over on me.
Yeah, I guess the more time you spend online, probably like the easier it is to pinpoint your Achilles heel, right?
Yeah, I guess.
So just as a little refresher, or for the unacquainted, would you mind just going over like a brief synopsis of how you got offered the position that you ultimately accepted as the host for LOLCow Live?
Nick suggested me. They couldn't get DSP, which, to be perfectly honest with you, I was kind of interested to see how that would go. I know how that would go now.
Yeah.
Having actually been there.
Just trying everything I could to just be out of pain. Going through the divorce and getting bypass surgery and everything else.
Why? No, that doesn't answer my question though. Why taking them out? Why the dinner date?
Oh, it was always a self-destructive act.
How did you pay? How did you pay? You pay by the hour?
It was
I spent my money on doing shit like that. Yeah, like I did.
You sent a hooker's kid to school?
Yeah, real
fast. If you told me no and I agreed to it, okay, you're not going to sit there and walk right up to the door. Drop it.
I guess if you speak his name, if you speak his name, you speak it.
Yeah, exactly. You're trying, and you just proved to the entire audience that you're trying to control me. So drop it.
Well, I'm just saying.
So let's get back to Charlie.
Let's get back to Charlie. There's two things I didn't want to talk about today.
And if and you're hoping I talk about it so it can give you an excuse to walk off the podcast.
No, well then let's start.
Well then drop it. Drop it. Okay, good. I'm gonna do a boogie dust. I'm gonna do a boogie dust. Somebody that doesn't do this thing.
Can we start over then?
No, let's not.
No, this is perfect.
This is perfect.
And I think that was the ultimate. We can't get DSP, so why don't have Tommy go in and bust their nuts? And that's the way I always saw it. And I'm a professional podcaster. That's the thing. It seemed like a really fun opportunity. And then, you know, me and Keem have mended our fences since 2019. So, you know, worst case scenario, you know, I make some cash and that's it. It just breaks up. I don't look at breakups over podcasts like I didn't take them as personally as I did years ago. I wasn't going to handle it like they did and get all pissed off and take it personally. And unfortunately, that's what ended up happening.
Hope for the best, expect the worst, right?
yeah, literally. But I mean, people say that and they don't actually mean it or follow it. I did. I got no beef with anybody. Even, you know, Boogie was a pain in the ass to work with. But
I can imagine.
When we flipped the record button on, it was fun. For me, for sure. I had fun. I felt like I was in my element. I thought I did a job.
There are more than a few unmistakable attributes that define the anatomy of a LOLCow. Dismissal of personal accountability, a rejection of community feedback, an inability to stop feeling sorry for themselves, a disconnect with reality often accompanied by a sense of grandiosity, extreme deficiencies in self-awareness, personal accountability, and truth-telling ability, and most importantly, a LOLCow will more often than not fall into an inescapable cycle of repeating the all above mentioned self-destructive behavior. What would you say are a few unmistakable attributes that define a LOLCow?
Lying. And doubling down on it. That seems to things that gets people in trouble. The other part is a little fortunate. Shouldn't say this. There does seem to be mental disabilities that also sort of encourage that. The thing is, when you have somebody with some sort of mental disability, and they will do the same thing over again, even if it doesn't work. I like LOLCow Dark Viper. Yeah. He's capable of defending himself. Now, he may have a mental illness, but he's definitely capable of defending himself.
And I guess that kind of leads into my next question, because I was going to say, do you think someone's naturally predisposed to the LOLCow gene, or do you think it's a chain of events that happens to them?
No, I think I don't think there's a gene. Well, I know you're not being little. I don't think there's a gene, so to speak. But I think there's a bunch of factors. Mental illness being one of them. Ego. I've gotten caught up in believing my own bullshit, especially towards the end of beta. But I think what separated me from becoming a LOLCow, so to speak, is that I kind of have the ability to say, I fucked that up. And that's the one thing that I think if they all have in common, there is no ability for any kind of self-inspection. It can be mental, and that can also be, you're an asshole. I mean, if you can't learn from your mistakes, that is a sign of a lack of intelligence, but that's not always the case. I mean, very intelligent people can do extremely irrational things based on their ego. So I think it's a multitude of factors.
This podcast has become a microcosm for examining the pitfalls of some people's obsession with maintaining their niche micro-internet celebrity. Both once celebrated figures within the gaming community, if not just on the merit of how long they've been on the platform. Both Boogie's and Wing's struggles with mental health and weight have been publicly documented, often accompanied by guilt trips and pleas for monetary alleviation. I think that the community's consensus regarding the podcast has been more or less the same, and that's the fact that it has been an enormous waste of potential. Was manufacturing drama always kind of part of the show's intention, or was it a necessity after your termination?
I reject, especially when I was there, the manufacturing, stirring things up.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, that was partly my job. As far as was there a set plan? Did we sit behind and say, we're going to do this? I didn't do anything. I probably did less.
Yeah.
Of what I had done in the past. I would go on Twitter because I knew buttons to push back in 2017, 2018, and I knew exactly to get the reaction, and they would hand me the content. I didn't really do much of that this time. In fact, the only interaction I had with anybody of any note was a guy was an A-logger, ESP called Snort Hogan. You think you're a tough guy? I'm gonna kick your ass out, get out. Yeah, maybe you would. As far as making overarching narrative like you're seeing now, no, I was never part of that. Something YouTube drama things kind of happens.
That's what it is. It's pushing each other's buttons, right? But it's there's a line between that and writing a sitcom.
When you do something like that, it should be satirical. And this particular crowd, I think, is the business mistake on Keem's part. These people that were interested in what we were doing in this podcast are used to reality TV clips of Boogie Wings and DSP. And they expect a certain amount of organic shenanigans, for lack of a better word. And I think what irritated them is it didn't feel very organic in thumbnails and titles that we made. And I think that was kind of made a little bit of a division. That being said, I did quickly realize that this was a hate cast, and you were going into hate because and hate people. And I was like,
They're both Boogie 2988 and Wings of Redemption and Keemstar, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Their attempts at reclaiming former glory often spiral into public spectacles, showcasing their detachment from an audience that once adored them or at least appreciated them for what they were. I think that's where they started to get lost in the sauce, is where they were rejecting the fact that the audience was laughing like at them, not with them, and then they started to, kind of get on their high horse in that regard.
I gotta stick up for Boogie Wings here. I think they knew they were going to get laughed at. They may not have liked it, but they understood that concept. I don't think Keem understood that, because Keem is so used to having so much success. And Keem's going out to play the good guy. And he always says, well, I'm the bad guy, but then goes out to play the good guy. If you want to go to manufacturing, here was my plan. I was going to be their pain in the ass, and then hopefully over time, but I do realize that they get the redemption arc, and then I become the bad guy. And what happened is I kind of started off a little too strong, so I kind of became the bad guy too soon. I listened to the criticism, I took notes, and I changed it up, and I had more respect from the fan base. And then they would do their goofy stuff. But I think even Wings got somewhat of redemption arc. That would have been the best case scenario. And Boogie's incapable of making a decision. So I think.
Yeah, but I keep seeing new host tryout. Like Keemstar's pretty much stepped in as the indefinite host. And I know you had said in regards to the shares 25% thing, you had initially believed maybe Boogie and.
No, I never believe any. I don't know what the fuck those two were talking about. He told me about his shares and I just laughed. He thinks he's still talking to the 8-year-old fans that he had 10 years ago. They don't exist. My age range for my own numbers have gone up. And I'm pretty sure everybody I talked to was well over 20, 25. You can do that to kids in the whole PewDiePie generation and say their shares and all that other stuff. And, it all doesn't matter because it's all a show anyway. He also told me he wasn't going to have anything to do with it. He was just going to manage from the outside. The numbers weren't what he hoped they were. And, then it became, kind of his show from all aspects. It was always his show. I protested the kind of situation. It was abundantly clear, if it wasn't before, that we had absolutely no say over absolutely anything. That's when I kind of was all right, performance-wise, I'm going to do my best. But, I'm not going to sit there and fool myself, and I'm not going to lie to the audience. When the shares things came up, if you noticed, I just kind of.
Was it frustrating in that regard? Keemstar kind of got to have his cake and eat it too, in regards to maintaining a relatively, fair position to the show, specifically to the audience.
It was always going to be frustrating, so I don't know if I looked at it in those terms. I knew who I was working with, and I knew I was working for him. I think the only thing that I didn't expect, but I should have expected, is his constant tinkering. And he did that with Beta as well. More so, but it actually gotten worse. He's calmed down, his public persona has calmed down a lot. And I would even say behind the scenes, he's calmed down a lot. But his hands are on everything. But he doesn't want him to, because he knows how much it takes time, whatever the hell he's doing.
It's like that mom, trying to show you how to bake something, but she's no, let me just do it.
The kids who were 16 are now 25, 24, 25 years old. So he's playing to that audience, but the audience we're collecting are the ones that really honestly hate Wings and Boogie to a point where it's insane. Or people that I think were like me that enjoyed the clip. The audience we're targeting have jobs. They're more like you. You're going out hustling every day. Yeah,
I'm on my grind.
Your internet's a hobby, yeah. And the internet's your hobby. It might be a passionate hobby, but it's a hobby nonetheless. And I don't think he understood that for a minute. And, there was really not much I can tell him. Any kind of sit down, we're not doing it the right way. Would have been.
Yeah.
Well, now I gotta, to him, it's okay, what do I gotta do to get shit canned now? And I knew that. So I just took the money.
Kind of a big waste of potential at the end of the day.
I think that's what frustrates them more than frustrates me. Because I know him, I've dealt with him for years now, and it was very clear when they let this guy in that we all knew, and he even told me to stay away from years ago this game's attorney. And he started putting the LOLCow podcast in his name and .coms and stuff like that. And then he calls me up and goes, who is this guy? I go, what do you mean, who is this guy? He's the manager. You hired him, right? No, I don't know what this guy is. It's in the chat to say, okay, Gangster, you do this, and you do this, and you do this, and click, and you hang up. And that's his management style. It's just that simple, and then he wonders why nothing works.
Yeah.
He's Boogie and Wings The Boogie Mace never should have been counted on to do anything other than show up and be themselves.
You had said that Keemstar kind of has a way of like creating a common enemy, you know, like in the work dynamic, like Connor,
there's
you.
Always a new, I like that you said a common enemy because there's a new enemy every week. He likes to play chess and he likes that's his favorite part.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was never a good business environment. I've had people come up to me. Certainly, he's been successful, and certainly, the podcast is still successful. It's not a podcast, though. It's a prank show. Which, by the way, I have no problem with. And I don't wish any of those guys, like, any kind of lack of success. Well, the same thing he's telling me that there's shares, and I owned it. And then that he was initially told me he wasn't taking a nickel, and then he was taking a nickel.
Let me get it in writing.
yeah. But there's no getting in writing with him. So it was just, yeah, sure, yeah. Because I knew, like you could say something one day and change his mind the next. If everything's done on gut. I really wonder. Although maybe I'm not in a position to say this because I haven't had this best. I don't know how he ever made money doing what he's done. Maybe it's just by kind of a like full Aries type mentality, bull straight ahead. He's openly admitted that he's not a numbers. I'm not either, by the way, because I don't even know where to begin with that stuff.
So I'm like, I got nothing to say about that.
Broadcasting 3-4 days a week, and he's looking at it. And by the way, maybe rightly so. We have to make money. The idea behind this business is to make money. Maybe we got to broadcast a week. 2 days a week or one podcast. But he's right. When as much as everybody cried when I left, the numbers were still good, and I couldn't compete when he was on.
Yeah.
By himself, he can pull
audience, and it was in its infancy, but whatever.
Yeah, that's the way I saw it, but I don't think that's the way it's now or nothing. Now or I'm not. No one's gonna call me a loser. Yeah.
Almost like you say, short-sighted. Yeah.
I didn't believe when you tell them their shares. I didn't believe any of this stuff. The shares, they're real. No, they're not. I got paid at the end of the month by a pay. I mean, talk to me like as a child. This will happen if you do. Like I grew up in New Jersey. I know 10,000 con artists. Like, they have a much better con than you.
From like firing up that stream when you had like prior commitments and saying that you weren't going to come on and defend yourself, to like saying that all the commenters like rejoiced when you left. How do you deal with like bigger content creators rewriting history?
Fire up the stream.
How do you maintain composure?
I don't have much composure. You ever see my show? Tune in to see if I might blow up. I don't know. I mean, composure is my thing. Or even I don't know. I think there's a time for everything. There's a time to blow up and there's a time to have.
Yeah.
And I don't always mix it right. A debate or some sort I had over Turkey Tom's cheating his girlfriend, and I've done it a little different. Because I went with full TommyC mode when I should have just laid back and let the guy seem like more of a pearl-clutching baby.
No, I guess that's the Irishness, dude. I'm like, it's hard to not get, reactionaries.
No, I'm a reactionary person. I literally react to content. I'm a critic at the end of the day.
What's one thing you learned from your time on the show and one thing you regret from your time on the show?
Regret it didn't work. I didn't learn a thing.
Would you do it again if you could go back in time?
Yeah. Why not? Keemstar is one of the things that he is that he wasn't 10 years ago is he's very predictable.
And most importantly, a LOLCow will more often than not fall into a cycle. It's the LOLCow gene.
He didn't yeah, I guess. I guess you can be rich LOLCow? I don't know.
You see how we're like wrapping around here? There's like a point to make.
It needs a better fit than I'm gone, just for, like creatively, artistically. I can accept that. I don't really.
They wanted like a third, like true, proper LOLCow, so I think Keem is like the perfect indefinite step in.
Yeah. I went and I prepared for the moment and I executed completely and I got fucking paid, unlike last time. I got very, very little resistance from this.
Yeah.
And he ran back to all the commentators and they basically said, we don't support you, so he paid me. And then he told everybody I scammed him. That's really what it was. The only thing was going to do it was public pressure. And I knew if I did anything that would put a distaste in anybody's mouth, that I wouldn't get paid. So I just said what I said and let the internet do the work, which is what I should have done 8 years ago. So if I learned anything, I really didn't learn anything from LOLCow. I learned from Bane.
Well, see, that's how you know you don't have the LOLCow gene, because you learned, you reformed your approach. I have a controversial one for you. Well, they attempt to create drama on LOLCow Live. Actual LOLCows, like Bo Blacks, are being successfully milked on the same platform. What are your thoughts on the market competition that seems to be organically outperforming a podcast specifically designed to milk LOLCows?
I don't know, that's just funny. I think there will always be LOLCows. I don't look at it that way. It's like, Jesus Christ, and Lomax is really kicking our ass. You know?
It's true. In my humble opinion. I think those are all the questions I have for you today, Mr. TommyC. You know, I've been overthinking the outro to this video, but I feel like I don't really need to walk you guys through my conclusion. So I'll just leave you with this quote, mostly by Friedrich Nietzsche. Whoever capitalizes on LOLCow should see to it that he in the process does not become a LOLCow. And if you gaze long enough into the abyss will gaze back into you. Subscribe if you want to see TommyC and I's raw, uncut conversation. Shot from the point, bitch!